What's up guys, this is the top 5 worst morphs for color changes in leopard geckos. Let's go. At number 5 we got the beloved Max Snow. Now why is the Max Snow even in the top 5 worst morphs for color changes in leopard geckos? Because it goes through a dramatic change. So let's take a look. When a baby snow is born, you will see that it is black and white like this photo shows right here. Now there's Albie Snow, Tug Snow, Gem Snow, Max Snow. We're mainly talking about Max Snow right here, but all snows pretty much act the same. They'll be white with their black banding when babies. This is a Super Snow Eclipse, which has this faded out white nose at the front right here, faded out white fingertips, and it will be a lighter shade of black, almost like a grayish color most of the time, especially if it is Eclipse. But we're mainly talking about Max Snow right now, so black and white as babies. Then those black bands open up into purple lavender coloration as they get within 1 month old, and then by 2 months old those lavender bands are now starting to take on spots along with the rest of the body. A lot of times spots will come in around this time, and then aging into adulthood you see that the animals will actually take on varying levels of yellow. This animal is actually not so yellow, but some of them will be like really yellow, where it almost looks like a normal leopard gecko, not even showing the Max Snow gene. Now, if you missed my fasciolatus Oreo / Mr. Freeze project, that is mixing Max Snow with fasciolatus, and the fasciolatus brings in higher amounts of whites. Those whites last into adulthood, and we have some pretty awesome, amazing looking animals in that project that you could check out on our Instagram and in this video here in the top right corner. But your traditional Max Snow is going to get yellow. Now the reason I have it as number 5 is because Max Snow is not typically a very expensive morph. So if you only spend $50 to $100 on an animal like this and then it changes, you as the customer are not so disappointed. Let's go to number 4, the beautiful and my favorite tangerine leopard gecko. Now tangerine leopard geckos will come in varying levels of orange. With high-end lines of tangerine, you can hatch babies that are like fiery orange red. But for ease of making this video, I was just doing some Google searches on different morphs and stuff because I was going to need to get baby photos, juvenile photos, subadult photos, and adult photos for all 5 of these morphs that we're going to be going through. So to speed this video along and to get you guys this video out as soon as possible, I just picked the best representative photos that I could from each of those categories: baby, juvenile, subadult, and adult, and then each of those morphs. So this is a low quality tangerine, but you can still see that the yellow / orange area right here shows that this is a tangerine, and then you can see the black banding right here. So all tangerines are born with black banding or pattern on top of their base color, which will be this orange color or sometimes a yellow orange color if they are a low quality tangerine. Now again, those black bands will open up into purple right here, as you can see, as the gecko ages, and the color of yellow / orange will continue to develop on the gecko. A month or 2 down the line, you will see that those purple bands will oftentimes bring in black spotting. Now this black spotting is a little bit deceptive because these spots oftentimes do not last into adulthood, which is why I wanted to show you this specific example of a super hypo tangerine carrot tail, because a lot of tangerine leopard geckos will end up like this in adulthood, even if they have spotting like this when they're younger. If it is not a line that has been mixed with bold or firebold or Bengal or any of that stuff to bring in black pigment, even purple head, if it hasn't been a line that is refined to do that, most of the time all of those black spots, if not most of the black spots, will completely go away, and you'll just be left with a solid orange leopard gecko into adulthood. And again, these representations of tangerine right here I would consider as low quality tangerines. I mean, this adult right here is a low to mid quality tangerine, but it is certainly nowhere near the top quality stuff as far as the level of orange or orange / red coloration that we have. You could check out some of my videos here to see some excellent quality tangerines, but it does convey the point of the changes that happen. So they start off with orange base color with black banding, then the black banding becomes purple, the purple banding takes on spots, and then those spots and purple banding banding completely go away for the most part into adulthood, and you are left with a pure orange gecko. Now you might be able to see the faintest hue of green coloration right here where I'm pointing, and that is where this purple color turns green right before adulthood. And if you want to see what that looks like, check out our most popular video for showing the color changes that leopard geckos go through and some high quality examples of exactly what I'm talking about here in this video in the top right corner. Very, very good video. It teaches you how to understand color layers in leopard geckos and color changes in leopard geckos, so you are not disappointed, or so that you can invest in the best quality animals and know what to look for. Now, one of the reasons why tangerine is not further on down the list is because for the most part, if you get an all orange gecko and that orange color fades out a little bit into adulthood, you're not super disappointed because the orange color is still practically what that gecko looked like. You just lost some color saturation, some color hues. But these next three categories that we're about to get into, not only do you lose color and color hues, but you lose pattern and you lose all sense of control heading into adulthood. Check it out. Number 3, most disappointing, worst morphs for color changes in leopard geckos that you need to be aware of. Number 3, the firebold leopard gecko. Now, going through what a firebold looks like as a baby, a lot of times they will be this yellowy orange color with some nice black banding or striping, I should say, going down the sides, some nice black pigment going into the tail, and that's all great. This animal right here is actually an animal that I produced. It's a firebold crossed with just a normal bold stripe line, so ignore the yellow coloration. Normally it would be like a yellowish orange coloration, but what I wanted to show you is as the first month unfolds, those black stripes start to become purple. You can see that purple color starting to come in. And then here's a good example of the most beautiful stage for a firebold leopard gecko, which is around 3 to 6 months. And you can see those purple stripes are now opening up and turning green. You can see some green coloration right here, some purple around the base of the tail, and you can see some nice orange color on the gecko altogether. The stripes on the tail will remain black. I've never seen any stripes on the tail that actually open up to be like purple or green. You know, off the top of my head, maybe that exists, but for the most part, what I'm comfortable saying right now is every time I remember the stripes on the tail, it is just pure black, like you see on this gecko right here. But the stripes on the body will open up like width-wise, and in between this top stripe right here and the bottom of that stripe right there, which is black on top, black on the bottom, in between that will be this greenish purplish hue. Now, what happens with that greenish purplish hue as the gecko ages into adulthood is it starts to blend into the color of the body. So you can see now that greenish purplish hue, the green is all gone because the green fades into the orange color of the gecko. So I highly recommend that you watch that video I mentioned a second ago about color layer number 2 fading into color layer number 1 as the geckos age out in the top right corner here. I'll leave that again, but you can see this is a completely different looking animal now, from baby to juvenile to subadult to moving into adulthood. You could see that the blending of the purple and green coloration that was very distinct when the animal was younger is now becoming a little bit more blended and faded into the general color of the animal, giving it a much less distinct look. And then this is just an example of what happens a lot of times with firebolds moving into adulthood. They sort of lose all sense of that purple green coloration, and it just blends into the color of the animal, which will be this yellowy orange color. Now, if you didn't know this, firebold is the late successor of bold stripe. So when bold stripes were first being developed in the leopard gecko hobby, it started with yellow geckos, and now we have some really great examples of bold stripes with leopard geckos. But a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago or so, people started working on getting those stripes into the tangerine leopard geckos. And little by little, we've been able to take away the yellow color, and infuse orange color into the leopard geckos. But as of right now, most of the examples and animals that are going to be available on the market are going to be lower orange or lower quality, because most breeders need to hold on to the highest examples of orange because the project is far from done. Whereas with the bold stripe yellow project, that project is cooked, overcooked, crisp already. I mean, every project can always get a little bit better, but that project has already like a perfect example and a consistent example of what the end goal is. The Tangerine project, if I had to give it a number 1 to 10, how far or how close that project is to perfection, I would probably say it's still hovering around a 5 or a 6. The consistency isn't there. The overall dark and boldness and thickness of lines isn't there. And if it does hit every once in a while, like I said, it's not something that is super strong or super consistent right now. So I put it at a 6, which is good because that means that there is room for the project to improve and room for people to invest. All right, now the second most disappointing and worst morph for color change progression in leopard geckos is the red diamond. And one of the reasons that the red diamond is before the firebolt is because red diamonds are oftentimes sold when they look their best for a lot of money. And then when the customer sees that animal age out, or when they purchase the animal and now it's older than its photos were and they receive that animal, it's a completely different looking animal. And a lot of times, it's sad to say, it is not a good looking animal, at least compared to what the photos used to be. So buyer beware. This is an important morph to be aware of the changes that it goes through. Now, I couldn't actually find a baby photo of a red diamond, so this is a Bell albino. Technically, a red diamond needs to be Tremper. That just is the project line that it originated from. And to my current knowledge right now, there is nobody, or shouldn't be anybody, that is marketing or advertising Rainwater or Bell albino red diamonds. Maybe someone has started the process of taking what we're about to go into as far as the pattern and the look of the animal and pushing that into Bell. I'm sure there's animals that are very similar to that look, but as far as I know right now, if you see the title red diamond, it has to and needs to be in the Tremper albino project. This animal is a Bell. I can tell because the eyes are very pink right here. Even though when I looked up my Google search and I said baby red diamonds, this photo popped up. I know that this is not a Tremper albino just because I hatch a ton of Tremper albinos and also Bells, and Bells are the only ones with pink eyes. So a lot of people, that's a little side note, is a lot of people say that you can't tell the difference between a Bell and a Tremper, but you certainly can. I'll say that the difference more that you can't tell is between a Tremper and a Rainwater. I haven't hatched a ton of Rainwaters. I will let you know when I do hatch a ton of Rainwaters, which I am working with Rainwater now, but I have hatched a gigaton of Trempers, and I have hatched a significant amount of Bells, and always the Bells look different. Their color is brighter and crisper, their eyes are pinker, their purples are more lavender, so it's a completely different looking animal in my opinion than a Tremper, and easy to distinguish. But the point of a red diamond is to create heavy white pattern, oftentimes in a stripe-like formation or striped/zigzag-like formation, as you'll see in the first 3 progressions here. So you can see this animal right here has this like lavender purplish coloration that it was born with. That's because it's albino. If it was not albino, that color would be black. And then as it ages into juvenilehood, you can see that that color turns a nice crisp white and becomes very distinguished from the orange coloration. You can see that there is white color behind the neck of the animal here, oftentimes at the base of the tail, and also on the other side of the animal. It's just, for lack of a better term, it's a really cool looking animal. As that animal ages into adulthood, you can see more white color come in, and you can see at this point the white color is very clear and very crisp. But what's about to happen is terribly disappointing. So aging into subadult/adulthood, you can see the white color pretty much goes away and starts blending into the orange color of the animal. And that is because the white coloration in red diamond is caused by color layer number 2. And if you remember what I just spoke about with Firebolt and also Tangerines in the past 2 slides, the purple color, which turns green, is color layer number 2, and that often fades into the tangerine color of the animal, blending into the orange color of the animal, and the white is no different. The white is the albino version of the green / purple / black color that normal baby leopard geckos are born with. That's white because the animal is an albino. And albinism removes melanin. It removes that black color and the effects of that black color. So now instead of a black color, you have white. Instead of the green fading into the orange color of the gecko, you have the white fading into the orange color of the gecko. So that's why it's very important that you understand what color layer is the color that I'm interested in pulling out in a leopard gecko. What color layer is that, and how do I accentuate it so that you know which animals to hold back, which animals are going to complement each other, and which animals are not going to sustain that color into adulthood. And here's another example where some of that white color did last into adulthood, but it's nowhere near what these 2 animals look like comparatively right here. And I do got to say as well that most of the time, the color of white right here is not just a pure bright white like that, but sometimes your camera, when you're taking a photo of the animal, your camera doesn't know what to do with that white, and it actually makes it whiter than what it looks like in real life. In real life, it might be a little bit more grungier. It might be a little bit more like lavender / tannish white. So regardless though, I think that this animal right here and this animal right here, they get the point across for the end destination of most red diamond leopard geckos. And last but not least, the most controversially disappointing color changes that happen in leopard geckos occurs in the clown / Joker morph. Now, the reason I have to list it as clown / Joker is because clown was used to make Joker, but Joker does have Firebolt and Black Knight and is being worked right now by Matt Baranek of Saddleback Reptiles in a different direction than the original clowns. And clowns are oftentimes mixed with infernos or mandarins or other lines of tangerine to accentuate that look and to bring in fresh DNA. But there is a certain look that a clown is supposed to represent and that a Joker is supposed to represent, and they're both very similar, but they both unfortunately have very similar effects as far as the longevity of those colors and patterns holding into adulthood. Now, if you look at clown leopard geckos as babies heading into juvenile / subadult stage, they are probably some of the most beautiful leopard geckos that you will ever come across. And one of the reasons that they are listed as number 1 most disappointing leopard gecko for color change is because they are often marketed and sold when they look their best. So their prices are jacked up because they look really good, and then by the time you receive the gecko or by the time a year goes by, the animal looks literally like a normal or like nothing like what it used to when it was a juvenile. The reason that that's important is because Max Snow looks drastically different than when it's older. Drastically different. But they don't cost you an arm and a leg. Clowns and Jokers, Firebolts and Red Diamonds, sometimes these morphs will cost you an arm and a leg, and then you are left very, very disappointed by the time that animal ages out. I think this is something that we should address head on in the leopard gecko community, and content creators should be educating new people coming into the hobby, because otherwise nothing ever changes and new people will continually be disappointed and leave, and people will continually try to market animals when they look their best because everyone else is doing it and jacking those prices up, and that's just a terrible, terrible experience for new people coming into the hobby, in my opinion, or even existing people. So let's take a look. Again, I could not find a great example of a clown leopard gecko baby, but I found this one right here, and this one will do because most clowns start off as this yellowish orange color with that black banding or jungle or striping pattern. And technically a clown is supposed to be jungle, but sometimes you will see them with stripes or bands. And as they age into their first month, again, those stripes or bands will open up and turn this light lavender purplish color, and some black spotting will start to come in, as you can see on this animal right here. That will continue in some cases to become more and more vividly purple or lavender, which is again one of the most beautiful looks that you can achieve. I mean, look at the purple on this head, the purple on this body, the bright orange coloration right here. Amazing looking animal. We take a step to the right, the animal continues to age out, and a lot of times you will have these big black spots along with these deepening reddish orange colors. And again, let me undo that real quick. This is a great example of the jungle pattern. So you can see this extremely wonky and wavy jungle pattern with all of these color hues going through. You got this yellowish green color, this purplish bluish lavender color. You got this reddish orange color with the black spots on top and the white in the tail. Beautiful looking gecko. Another example that happens with clowns sometimes is they become red stripes. So you can see these two red stripes going down the center of the back of the gecko. But as the gecko ages out, you can kind of see that greenish color start to fade into this yellow color, and you can start to see some of those black spots start to go away. And then as that color ages into adulthood, the orange becomes duller and duller a lot of times, the purple becomes less and less, and the green becomes more and more normal yellow. Sometimes the green will stay like you see in this animal right here, but it's like 50-50 blended in with the orange and very hard to distinguish between one color and the other. And I would say that this example right here is actually a gecko that seems to have a little bit more tangerine DNA compared to clown or joker DNA, because essentially a clown or joker is pretty much, to show the best example, you need an even blend of strong tangerine genetics mixing with bold and emerine genetics to create these distinctive patterns lasting into adulthood. So if you want this to last into adulthood, you need to continue to be refining animals that are picking up the most orange coloration, but it might not be a good idea to breed those animals to each other. The best illustration that I can give is if you wanted to create a mule, you would take a horse and a donkey to create a mule. If you wanted to create a liger, you would take a lion and a tiger and create a liger. Mules cannot create mules, and ligers cannot create ligers. Number one, it's because they're incompatible chromosome wise. They literally cannot reproduce with each other. But number two, it takes the special genetics of a horse and the special genetics of a donkey to create a mule. And it takes the special genetics of a lion and the special genetics of a tiger to create a liger. And similarly, I would say that because the clown and joker leopard gecko is a mutt, it is a mixed line of tangerines and emerines and bolds and white and yellow lines and all kinds of stuff mixed into it. When you breed a clown to a clown, they're already mutts. They're already watered down versions of each of those genetics, but sometimes they hit big and make some amazing looking animals that hold decent color into adulthood, but 99% of the time those animals do not hold color into adulthood is because their genetics are already muddy. So when you take a muddy genetic here and you breed it to a muddy genetic here, it just creates even more muddy genetics. That's why clowns crossed to clowns oftentimes do not make the best looking clowns. Rather, what you should do, or what I do, is I will take pure clowns or clowns that are just clowns, like really a 50-50 blend between tangerine genetics, jungle genetics, emerine genetics, bold genetics, and I will breed that into my best tangerine stuff with bold pattern, green colors. And what happens there is now you are taking a donkey to a horse, you're taking a lion to a tiger, you're taking the best genetics of both realms to create the best example animals. And so you could see what happens again. You can see these dark black spotting, you could see these deep orangey red tones, but now into adulthood this animal has faded dramatically, and that green coloration that was starting to become yellow has now completely turned yellow, and this animal, for lack of a better term, just looks like a fancy normal. So the conclusion of the story is we don't want to be marketing animals to people that look really, really good when they're babies and sell them for a heck of a lot of money, because that is a bad experience for new people coming in. That's my personal opinion. I think there are certain things to look for in clown as a breeder that would make it a more valuable animal. Obviously, the color saturation heading into adulthood. If it's holding those colors, those are the animals that you want to invest in. If it's holding those greens or those wonky patterns, those are the animals that you want to invest in. Now, all animals fade, so it's not going to look the same at 3 months old as it is at 1 year and 3 months old, but you will see, as I showed you with these photos here, some animals look completely different. But in some cases, you will get some animals that hold a significant amount of that color and pattern into adulthood, and those are the animals that you really want to invest in. Those are the animals that I think should be high dollar. I do not think that we should be marketing, for example, if I had one clown that looks excellent in my right hand and one clown that looks excellent in my left hand, and they're both 3 months old and they're both $1,000, which is the one that you should pay $1,000 for? My answer would be neither, because you don't know if either one of those animals is going to hold that pattern or color into adulthood. So it would be better to pick adult clowns where you could see the remnant of their pattern and color. An example of that would even be this one right here. Even though this animal has faded that I'm showing off right here, you can still see that it had strong wonky pattern waving through its back, and it had some strong black spotting, because not all black spotting lasts into adulthood, but that black spotting did. So that means that this clown is at least somewhat decent for passing on its genetics. At least this is my proposed theory of how it would be better for us as the leopard gecko hobby to move forward with marketing and selling clowns. But for the most part, the prices on clowns have dropped a lot, and you can find them relatively at low prices nowadays for sometimes $100 to even $200, and I think that's appropriate. I think that's right. But paying $500 to $700 to $1,000 for an animal that's only 3 months old, that might wind up looking like one of these terrible examples that I show here in these last 3 animals, I think that's a bit premature, and it's not a good experience for new people coming into the hobby. Well, that is it. What did you guys think about this video? Was I too hard on these morphs? Did I not go hard enough? The point of this video is for customers to be aware. Whenever you buy a car, there's a Latin saying that means buyer beware. You have to do the research. You have to ask the questions. You have to be aware of what might be wrong with that car. And unfortunately, when working in the world of animals, a lot of times people are just trying to sell you anything they can to get as much money out of you as they can, because it is a tough hobby and it is a tough industry, especially in leopard geckos. So in my opinion, people get ripped off all the time because they are misinformed or ill-informed, which is partly their fault. They need to be doing their research, but it's also the fault when certain breeders are comfortable marketing animals that look amazing at 3 to 6 months old, marking them up in price with the experience, knowing that that animal might turn out to be a normal looking animal 6 months from now or 1 year from now, and your customer is going to be extremely disappointed, but you're okay with it because other people are doing it, or because personally that doesn't convict you as something that is wrong. Well, I'm just here to say that I do think it's a little bit of an issue, and I do think that leopard gecko content creators need to push for education, because we, as the leaders of the hobby, the marketers of the hobby, we do have a responsibility to the new people coming in to educate them on things to look for, diseases, what does sticktail look like, parasites that are known to be in leopard geckos or the insects that leopard geckos eat, and also color change, so that you are not disappointed or just straight up ripped off, because some people spend their last dollar investing in a beautiful, beautiful animal, and then and they open up the box. It's months later after that photo was taken, and they're extremely heartbroken. We've all been there. Black Knight is another one that you really have to be careful of. A lot of people take photos of black knights from like a foot away or far away, and that actually makes the animals look darker because the camera is not picking up the pattern of the animal. But then when you get close, you can actually see that there's some pattern of that animal. So if you look at any of our black knights on our website, I actually get as close as I can, and I put as harsh, bright white lighting as I can onto the animals so that our customers are not disappointed. I think as breeders, guys, we just need to do the right thing and just advertise and market honorably and correctly. So God bless you guys. I hope you have a good start to this week, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, my friends, stay safe, pursue your reptile passion, and have a geeky gecko great day. Peace.